Coming up on today's episode of Parasport Nation, it's National Accessibility Week here in Canada. Now, Jeff Ryman, producer of the show, was at the Whitby Abilities Centre to take in some interviews in a celebration of their National Accessibility Awards. Let's get started.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Welcome into PSN. I'm your host, Alex Smyth, and joined as per usual by co-host Nathan Clement. Nathan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Alex. It's a great week looking at accessibility and really taking in all aspects of life and really opening your horizons to hear more and listen more. And I know with today's episode, it's really exciting to hear what Jeff got to experience at the Whitby Abilities Centre. And I can't wait to hear everything that he's going to share about that today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been too long since we had Jeff Ryman on the show. Literally the last episode. It's a Jeff Ryman week. So without further ado, let's welcome him in. Jeff, thanks so much for stepping in front of the camera again for us.
You guys just can't get enough of me, eh? It's been 55 episodes until my first appearance, and then here we are, one episode later, and I'm back.
You're back, baby. Okay, so take us through. You were at the Whitby Abilities Centre, one of my favorite places to visit. What were you doing there? You were actually kind of working as the reporter in the field. Share a bit of what you were covering.
Yeah, of course. So I got 3 really good interviews. The first one you'll hear is from Michael, their CEO and president. He gave a phenomenal speech to open the keynote speakers. There were 3 keynote speakers. I got to chat with all of them before or after. And let's actually dive into our first one with their president and CEO, Michael.
Thank you for joining us today, Michael.
My pleasure, Jeff.
So you gave your keynote speech earlier today about how this is the first week here at the Ability Center about regarding National Accessibility Week as opposed to just one-off events throughout the year. Where did that idea come from?
Well, we had a good discussion. We have a wonderful executive leadership team, really represents all of our staff, our board, our members, our clients. And when we started to strategize about National Accessibility Week, it was important for us as leaders in the accessibility and inclusion space, particularly in Durham region, and we pride ourselves on being an incubator nationwide, that we had to make it not just a one-off event. We need to celebrate the entire week, and so that's what we're doing here this first time around.
I've mentioned in previous interviews, this is an amazing center. You said it's the most accessible or one of the most accessible buildings, not just in Canada, not just Durham, but in the entire world. Can you walk us through what it's been like to work here? And, this is 13 years, is it 13 years?
13 years, that's right.
Yeah, so 13 years of accessibility here. What do you do in terms of if somebody comes to you? You said you have a large research panel. How does that partnership happen between you and if somebody's coming to ask for advice?
Yeah, it really is a whole community, and we do get people from within Durham region, from outside Durham region, from our customer service staff just located behind us to, as you mentioned, we have a research department, our programs team. They're all trained really highly in being able to welcome, anybody who walks through the door to make sure that they feel welcome here, and whether that's through our specific programs for people with lived experience, our general membership programs, using this world-class facility. We want to make sure that anybody who comes through our front doors has an opportunity to be part of it.
What can people expect this week?
A lot, and so if you go to abilitiescenter.org, you'll find our schedule right from today's keynote right through until Saturday. We have a job fair. We have our Accessibility Awards, which is an annual opportunity to celebrate champions in accessibility. We've got a lot of Try It events for people that want to come in as well. The municipality of Durham is helping us co-host an accessibility conference on Wednesday. So there's a lot going on, literally from dawn till dusk, and we're looking forward to hosting the whole community.
You talked about sports, and I know obviously the whole center is sort of centered around sports. Is there any parasport or adaptive sport that you haven't tried that you would like to try?
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, so I've tried wheelchair basketball. I've tried wheelchair tennis. Both very difficult. I would like to try goalball. One of our guest speakers that we had today, Emilee, being a parasport athlete in goalball, is something I'd like to give a try as well. And that's the great thing about Ability Centre is you can have a provincial basketball team on one court. You could have wheelchair rugby on another, and you could have seniors with lived experience trying some type of fitness activity. So here at the Ability Centre, we really want want to not only create an inclusive opportunity for everybody, but an opportunity for any of us to try those activities as well.
What does this week mean for you personally?
It means a lot. This is the first time we've tried to do an entire week of celebrations. I like to party, and so let's have it here in one of the most accessible places in the world.
Okay, so we asked this question to a lot of our guests. Obviously, you're a big traveler. You said you just got off a red-eye flight from Western Canada. Favorite food destination to travel to? It doesn't have to be in Canada. It doesn't have to be in Durham region. Just where's your favorite place to eat outside of the GTA?
Ooh, that's really tough because I like to eat, and our family does like to travel a lot. I'd say our favorite restaurant is a place called Grand Mercy Tavern in Manhattan. Just a place we've gone. It's kind of our special place. We'll go at least once a year, hopefully to celebrate, and hopefully we'll get to be able to come back and celebrate a successful National Accessibility Week as well.
Appreciate your time and good luck this week.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
That was a phenomenal conversation. He's got a really good personality, guys. The one thing that really stood out to me is just how well spoken he was and the incredible research team that goes into the Whitby Abilities Centre. They have over 50 plus members on their research panel. I know they have given keynote speaks throughout the entire week, but they are sort of that central hub of where people go to maybe make a building more accessible, or if they're about to construct a center or they want to pick their brain in any capacity. They are kind of like one of the go-tos, not just in the Durham region, but kind of right across Canada. So it was really, really cool to hear that. Obviously, the Ability Centers sticks out anyways because they have 3 basketball courts. They have a track and field that's all indoors. They have so much accessible equipment. But, talking with Michael, it was just very genuine, and it was just really cool to hear what else they do outside of just being a sports complex, essentially. So it was just a phenomenal time to get to know him, get to interview him. And it was just, it was incredible, guys.
No, that's awesome. And I always find it so fascinating too, because like the Whitby Abilities Centre is one of the most accessible places, if not the most accessible place I've ever had a chance to visit. And so, the fact that he raves about it as well as, and you talked about how he claims it's one of the most accessible places in the world. I don't put it past him because like it is just like top to bottom. It's all the things that are quite visible and really at the forefront when you're thinking about accessibility, but it's all the little hidden things like, the different doors and spaces within there. They're different colored. They're brightly color coordinated, as well as large print, as well as tactile direction, things like that. I just love it. And then on top of that, it's all such a great sports venue for all the different sports you can think of.
Yeah, it really is. And it brings able-bodied athletes together with para-athletes and everybody in between. And this next interview I'm going to share here is with Mariam Abdul-Rashid, who's an Olympian. She's a track star. She shared her story in her keynote speech. It was just incredible. It was almost a tearjerker, guys. But here's my conversation with Mariam.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So what brings you here today? I mean, you're obviously going to be a keynote speaker. What are you going to touch on today?
I'm just going to talk about my journey here at the Ability Center. I started training here when I was in grade 9. I'm 27 now, and they just want to hear about my story from starting here and how it took me all the way to the Olympic Games.
It's such an incredible facility here. I mean, I've been here a couple of times myself. Everything is super accessible. I mean, just looking at what's in there right now is incredible. I mean, it's a full track. There's 3 basketball courts. They really have everything. What inspired you? What made you want to come and work out here? Out of everywhere else you could have went, why the Accessibility Center?
Yeah, we love the Ability Center because of accessibility. I'm a sucker for blue tracks. I'll actually talk about that in my speech. The big windows, the whole thing just felt so inviting, so that when it opened when I was in grade 9, we're like, I think this is the place for us. We had a big team. The team's even bigger now, the Speed Academy, my high school team, and we're like, we need a lot of space. Some of our people were multi-sport athletes, so they would come and play basketball after. And a lot of us were Durham kids, like from Oshawa, Whitby, Ajax, and it was far to go all the way to York or Variety Village, which are great facilities, but we needed something a little closer to home to get to practice just after school, just being high school kids.
So what does a typical workout look like for you and the team here?
So I get here right when it opens at 6 a.m., and I'm here till about earliest 10. Sometimes I'm here till noon. I'll sprint, I'll do drills, I'll hurdle, I'll lift weights, I'll have lunch here and just in between all of those sessions. But we're here bright and early in the morning so that my coach can go to his other full-time job right after training me in the morning.
So do you have a bed here?
Honestly, we think that there's a room upstairs just like looking over the track. We think that should be my new apartment, but I'm working on that.
I see you're swagged out in some Canada gear. I like it. Obviously, you were in Paris over the summer. What was that experience like?
Everything I could have dreamed of. I started track when I was 6 years old, and my whole dream was to make it to the Olympics, and it took 20 years to make it. And I honestly wouldn't change the story for anything. And the Ability Centre was here the whole time and cheered me on so much. And yeah, the whole process of making the team and racing in Paris was a dream come true.
So one of our hosts, Nathan Clement, he's a Paralympian. He was over in Paris. He raves about the croissants. Did you have any of the croissants? What was the food like over in Paris?
Don't be mad at me. I didn't have a croissant, but I would love to go back.
Any other food that you were able to indulge in? I know track and field might be a little bit hard because you probably have to carb up or have a proper diet, but was there anything else you were able to indulge in?
I had a lot of tartare after my race. I love tartare. My favorite thing I think about Paris was the crowd. Like, Europe loves track, and I didn't get to have a lot of the fun food except for the chocolate muffins were like a big deal in the village in the cafeteria. I got one of those. It was good. But track's the very last event. And I was the very last event within track. Like the final was the closing ceremonies day. Like it was so late. And I was like, man, are people still gonna be excited to wait? Like it's been weeks of people watching the Olympics. And Europe, I shouldn't have never have doubted them because they showed up every event, all the prelims, not just the finals, 80,000 people in the stands. And that's why it was a dream come true for me.
So this is almost a year since those Paris games. What is next for you? I mean, the next couple of years, just training. Can you walk us through what you're going through right now?
So this year I'm training for World Championships. They'll be in Tokyo. I've never been. I'm really excited. They're in September though, so we still have a bit of a ways to go. And then I'm going to be training all the way up until the next Olympics in 2028 in LA.
That's awesome. One last question. We like to ask it to most of our guests. It's food related again. I guess I'm hungry right now, but you travel a lot, obviously. Is there a food destination that sticks out to you? Is there a specific city or a specific food or dish that you like to get outside of the GTA?
Okay, so every year the national team goes to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and you have to go get a crawfish boil if you're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or just like a seafood boil in general with the potatoes, all the spices, the hot sauce, the crawfish, the shrimp, the whole thing.
I like it. Thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Again, just one of those very genuine individuals. She actually came up and introduced herself to me rather than me introducing myself to her. And we got chatting beforehand. We were obviously chatting during that conversation. And even afterwards, we just talked for about 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes just about the parallels between her sport of track and field and parasport. It's so interesting because, she's like, once every 4 years, people come up and talk to me. They think that, Paris 2024, then LA 2028. People don't really think that, hey, there's 4 years in between there. Why not cover it? And it's the same with parasport, right? Like, we're just looking for that coverage. We're looking to showcase how talented these individuals are. And she really took a liking to that. And of course, there's always that cross training. And Nathan, maybe you can speak more to this, but the able-bodied athletes and the para athletes, a lot of them train together, especially those track and field athletes or maybe even cycling. But Nathan, maybe you can walk us through that and what it's like to interact and how that comfortability is between both the Olympians and Paralympians.
It's one of those great things in the sport is from an outside perspective, you won't really see it, but a lot of training facilities, like especially with track and field and the athletics programs, they're very centralized. So you have Victoria, you have other locations in Toronto and Quebec where you have para and Olympic athletes all trained together. So you really build and grow a community that way. And it really just becomes one giant team. It's like almost when you're in the village and you're in your lone sport, but you're with other athletes from different countries and you're with other athletes from your own country, and you just grow bigger and get bigger. One of the best things and something that we look forward to as athletes is when you can have those events where it's Olympians, Paralympians, because you're constantly learning, you're constantly growing. Like there's so many different training aspects that you can pick up from an Olympic athlete that an Olympic athlete can pick up from a Paralympian, and you just build those friendships, you build those connections, and it's just a giant bit of community. And just as you're mentioning with Miriam there, athletics is one of those sports that comes around every 4 years at the games, but there's so much work, so much dedication that is needed to excel. And it's really incredible just hearing her story, hearing the dedication, hearing the heart and the passion that she has. And it just shows the greatness of sport on that Olympic side, but also on that Paralympic side. Now, Alex and Jeff, are there any stories that you've heard of Olympians and Paralympians training together, or anything that really stands out about that?
Well, for me, I always think to those national programs, as you say, where there's those hubs, and it's just you're getting that cross kind of training of those athletes, and hearing the different stories. It's like, oh well, how many times do you hear that the Olympic athletes are so fascinated by the Paralympic athletes because they're being exposed to kind of the Paralympic kind of movement for the first time or the first few times because they're so insulated within their sport and their training and their competitions that it's like, oh wait, there's other sports out there, there's other athletes with different journeys, and it's the nuances of still being a high performance athlete but having to take a different approach because of things like classification, because of the impact of a disability or the different kind of accommodations. So I always find that very fascinating, and it kind of really resonates with what you were saying, Jeff, about how she came up to you, she was just as eager to find out, and you guys talking about the parallels, because that is something that doesn't get talked about. Obviously we talk about it from the Paralympic side of things, and part of the focus of the show is to kind of get the awareness, get the conversation going outside of just those Paralympic moments that you're having it constantly, because it deserves those conversations. But yeah, the fact is, you see it a bit in some sports, but for like a track and field, there's still a long ways to go in terms of the media coverage and the growth around the sport outside of those peak times.
Yeah, for sure, guys. I got one more to share with you, and this is with Emilee Schevers, who's done a ton across with AMI, well known in the disability community. She is on the Ontario goalball team, looking to make it to the Paralympic squad come 2028. But again, she's everywhere, and it was just such a fascinating interview, and she's got her whole Miss Personality Canada 2024 get up in. So let's take a listen with Emilee.
Thanks for joining us today, Emilee.
Thank you for having me.
So we're here at the Accessibility Centre in Whitby, Ontario, and obviously it's a beautiful facility, and you're going to be a keynote speaker in just a short period of time here. We're celebrating National Accessibility Week. What does that mean for you to be here and be a keynote speaker and just the week in general?
You know what? It's very exciting. This is only my second time being at the Ability Centre, and it's such a cool facility that is promoting, inclusion in sport, which is something that I feel like I hadn't seen a lot of. And, somebody who wasn't involved a lot in sport growing up and then now gets to be able to talk about inclusive sport and how we can get more people involved with disabilities, and just being able to kind of spread some awareness about sport opportunities for people with disabilities and be able to share my own lived experience with it is super special to me.
It's cool because that's the big part, especially on our show here, Parasport Nation. We're just trying to get the word out about parasport. And some people don't even know that these exist. And we were talking with Remia Muthan, who tried blind soccer for the first time. couple years back, but she didn't know that existed until her mid to late 20s. So it's just so cool to see that, there is growth at the grassroots level, and we're making great strides there. Speaking of parasport, you were in Saskatoon not too long ago playing goalball. How'd that go for you?
Yes, I was. I attended my first senior national goalball tournament, which was so cool. I love that I got to see a new province. It's one of my goals to check off all of the Canadian provinces, but such a cool experience to just be able to see such high-level athletics and then get to kind of compete in that and get to, I was actually being coached by Whitney Bogart, an ex-Paralympian, now retired, and just getting so much great feedback as I continue to learn and grow in this sport.
Yeah. Did you try any Saskatchewan-style pizza while you were there?
You know what? I did not, but I did try some Saskatoon berries.
How were they?
They were absolutely delicious.
Before we started this interview, you said that you've been really busy going back and forth between events. Can you give us a little bit of background on what you've been doing the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Between running around between Saskatoon and doing actually some pre-filming for this event, as well as, I just came back from W. Ross Macdonald School for the Blind, a short-term program weekend. We had our STP prom, and just getting everything ready. Once spring comes out, the nice weather, it's so nice to be able to get out and about in the community.
Obviously, I can't leave you without asking about your getup. You're fully swagged out. Can you walk us through what this is all about?
Yeah, so I have a crown and sash on, and my sash says Miss Personality Canada 2024, which is a title that I won back in August 2024. So I'm coming to the end of my reign, and honestly, pageantry was not something that I thought I would be involved in, but when COVID happened, there was a lot of free time and pageants taking place online, which provided a more accessible platform for someone like me who's visually impaired to participate in. So I just gave it a try and actually started doing pretty well in them. This is my 4th title I've held with the system, and I'm very excited that I get to continue to wear it today and represent the disability community more in the beauty and fashion industry, as it's not something that, again, similar to sports, has not previously been as discussed and as represented. So I'm excited that I get to combine 2 of my passions, fashion and sport today.
Last question here. Is there a parasport that you have not yet tried yet that you would love to try?
Ooh, I want to say, I've done a teeny tiny bit of judo, but I would love to try it more and get a little bit more hands-on experience with it. I also hear a lot about pickleball.
Yes, pickleball is definitely picking up, and there's so many different adaptations for so many different parasports. Emilee, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
That was my conversation with Emilee Schevers. Again, she is just so well versed. Miss Personality Canada 2024, vying to be a Paralympian, which she said in her keynote speak.
Yeah, well, and I think for Emilee's case, I've known her for a few years now. I was her producer when we were both working on Now with Dave Brown. I saw her in Saskatoon at the Nationals. It seems like I can't get away from her at some points, but no, she's such a great person to connect with, and I truly see the path forward for her being quite bright, especially in goalball, in that Ontario system where you have legends like Amy Burke to look up to, and you have Whitney Bogart, who is now in the coaching side of things. I think there is a strong path forward for her on the national side of things, that if and when she makes and cracks that lineup, I think the future is bright on the side of goalball.
I've never really gotten to meet her personally, but I know just from hearing a lot of the stuff she's done with AMI, but also being on some Zoom calls with her during cycling introductions and different conversations there, she has that passion. She has that energy to learn more. And those are the traits that you want to have as an aspiring Paralympian, and just everything that she's accomplished, starting to accomplish in sport, but also outside of sport, is really, really remarkable. And as this is Accessibility Week, I kind of have a question for you, Jeff, and for you, Alex. Is there anyone that stands out to you that's really leading the way in accessibility?
Ooh, what a tough question. Nathan, not going with any softballs here. There's so many people you can point to. I was literally just talking to Jeff before we started rolling about Rick Hansen and the Rick Hansen Foundation. So I'm going to say that's going to be my answer, because the work that the foundation continues to do day in, day out, it's been doing for decades. I think it's phenomenal. And so that's going to be my choice for kind of one of the leaders in accessibility, but there's so many deserving people for it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that you can go any direction. I'm going to be a typical team player here. I think anybody from AMI, Alex, Nathan, both of you guys do a phenomenal job showcasing parasport. Kelly McDonald just recently was awarded the President's Award for the CCB. For his advocacy with the blind community. I think the list goes on. I don't think you can really pin it on one person. I think that this group is very tight knit, and it's incredible to see. I don't think you can really pin it on just one individual, but I think, the work that we do here is also, we should give ourselves a little pat on the back.
Yeah, there's so many people doing incredible things. Like, even for me, that comes to mind, especially as you've both said, there's so many aspects in our community that work's being done there, whether it's things like I'm wearing Lululemon right now, what they've done for clothing in Canada, for especially people in wheelchairs, adding padding to the chairs, moving around where the pockets are so there's ease of access. But even for me personally, now having jackets that have magnetized zippers on it allow me to zip up a jacket, because that's something I struggle with and can barely do. So small things like that, and even on grander scales, like I really got to speak and talk to Vancouver Sport Hosting and everything that they did around the city, making sure sidewalks were accessible for the Invictus Games so people in wheelchairs can get around. And there's so many people who are really standing up, but one person that comes to mind is Sanjay Malavia and everything that he's done to really help raise the profile of Paralympic sport. And you're really seeing his work come to fruition, and especially right now in the Paralympic sports scene, as we do have a really busy calendar and a really busy time in the Paralympic sport world. So let's jump into the Parasport update.
Now, the PSN update.
The tickets are booked for Milan Cortina, and the stage is set for the semifinals of the Para Hockey World Championship. Group A's winner, Canada, who defeated China 4-2 to close out the round robin, plays off against Czechia, the team that tested the U.S. in a 4-3 defeat. On the other side of the semifinals, the U.S. battles China for a shot at the World Championships. With the gold medal game on Saturday, expect an exciting conclusion to this year's World Championships. Crack open at Tim Tam and heat up high as the Wheelchair Rugby World Challenge hits South Australia. Opening their tournament, Canada drew their America's rivals, Brazil. In a tightly contested match, Canada fell 59-53. In their second match, Canada came short 61-54 to the hosts. With matches streaming on CBC, check CBC Sports to see how Canada takes on the world. Keeping in wheelchair rugby, Canada's national championships have gotten underway in Montreal, with the Nationals free to attend at the Claude Robert Complex from the 29th to June 1st. Check out Canada's stars of today and tomorrow. Live streams are available on the World Wheelchair Rugby YouTube page. In sitting volleyball, the Sitting Canucks, Canada's men's team captured bronze by besting Argentina 25-17, 25-19, and 25-16 to take the match 3-0. We head to Scandinavia as Canada's women's goalball team throws everything for the Malmo Lady Intercup. The cup runs from the 29th to June 1st in Sweden. To hear how all of Canada's teams fare, check back into the PSN Duotang.
That was the PSN update. Another thick update from Nathan. I mean, there's so much happening this month in the sports world. Jeff, before we go, what's your biggest takeaway from that update?
What's a Tim Tam? I've never heard of that. I Googled it. Apparently it's an Australian sort of, it looks like a Kit Kat. My biggest takeaway from this, guys, really quickly, is that Czechia pushed USA 4-3. They narrowly almost beat the United States in para ice hockey. That's big. That is really, really big and really, really exciting. That is quite incredible from Team Czechia.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as we talked about when we had Greg Westlake on, China being that tight contender as well. That field is getting very competitive in the world of para ice hockey. Nathan, last thought to you before we wrap up.
I just think it's a really exciting weekend with the matches that we got between Canada and Czechia. China, USA, I think it's going to be a start of some amazing rivalries and some amazing world championship matches going forward. But also the fact that we have the National Wheelchair Rugby Championships going on, and we have a lot of the stars actually there in Montreal for that event. Like we have Zach Medell and other members of the senior men's national team participating. So it's going to be very curious to see how Alberta does and how a lot of the other provinces do. But overall, it's a really exciting time in parasport, and it's just the start of an amazing and busy summer.
And with that, we bid adieu for today, but be sure to check us out next time. We got more from the parasports world. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.